Hello, everybody. It is me, Juniper Bloom Mystique. I am your wonderful, great Ascension Master, Master Healer, and a Divine Guide. Today, I am bringing you my next. I don't remember what volume I'm on. I think I'm towards volume 15, but I'm not exactly sure. Could be volume 18. So forgive that. But my next video in my series, Shining Light into the Darkness. And as you can see in front of you, this one is all about the most beautiful, elegant, graceful, one of my favorite people. Like she really was. I don't get into this stuff usually. It is not my forte. But I do remember hearing all about it. Like she did really truly touch the hearts of everybody on this planet. Okay. And so I would like to shine light into what truly happened to one of the most beautiful people in the world. She was born she was not a princess when she was born, but she was born Diana Frances Spencer on July 1st, 1961. So happy birthday to the late Diana. I will always look at her as a princess. To me, she's a queen. Okay. Um, she was born in 1961, which is interesting, 20 years before me. And in July, I was born July 31st. So that's kind of interesting. But I didn't realize her birthday was on July 1st. So I would like to say happy, beautiful late birthday. She supposedly died August 31st, 1997, at the age of 36. So still very young. Okay. Supposedly by injuries sustained in a car crash. Okay. Now, supposedly in the early hours of that day in 97, Princess Diana of Wales died from the injuries she sustained in a car crash in the tunnel, that famous tunnel in Paris, France. Okay. It supposedly happened in Paris, France, which makes sense. I didn't realize that. Again, I don't pay attention to all this kind of stuff. The social media, things like that never ever intrigued me. I do remember hearing about her death, and I remember seeing the car, and I remember thinking something wasn't right. Okay. And so I wanted to find out, did she really die that day? Was it that? Okay. So the way I do these is a little bit not normal. I am not like your regular run of the mill psychic, light worker, starseed, anything like that. Okay. I am a little bit different and I receive messages very clearly, very vividly. But in me doing these, it helps clear it out of the karma of the collective whole. That is why I do these. Okay. I am the ascension master. I'm the one who brought about the ascension. So, I don't always, everybody's like, why don't you turn those in? And I tried to actually turn some of them into the police a couple years ago when they were coming through. And one of them was for Gannon Stauk. I knew where his body was. And I listened to people and I turned it into the police and they got mad. And it turns out too, when I did that, the body was moved. So I take very good care to not do that. That is not my purpose. If it ever comes to fruition where I work with things like that, that would be a whole different ball game. But I don't think that's exactly my main purpose in these. Okay. By doing them, do I think they're going to rise to the surface? Yes, I do. It clears the karma for the collective whole. Okay. Not only that, it sets them free. Okay. And she's already now fully being able to process what happened to her. All right. Now I'm going to get into what she told me. Okay. Again, she supposedly died on August 31st of 97 at the age of 36. Okay. So I tuned in, I asked Princess Diana what happened to her, and I didn't even have to try. She was right there with me. She is on the other side, but I'm going to tell you what happened to her. It's not what you think. Okay. It's probably not what you think. I get emotional because, like, I loved her. I don't know why she touched the hearts of so many, but I mean, it's obvious, right? She was beautiful. She was the light in one of the most darkest houses. I don't know why I'm crying. Wow. I didn't think I was gonna get emotional. So I'm trying to, oh, look at all these pictures of her. Now there she is. She's a queen. Okay. I feel like this is my favorite. This is her favorite. This is her favorite. She's like, that's the one. That's the one. So that's what she wants you to see her as. She was powerful. She was beautiful. That's the one. Okay. Now, she was the light that was in that darkest house. Okay. And there's a reason for that. And it also brings us to where we are today and where we're going forward in this world. Okay. Because it won't remain the same. I didn't mean to get so emotional, but it's also her emotions. She started out by telling me that she was accused of treason by the queen. She was accused of treason by the queen for a long time. And she was mentally tortured, is what she told me. This is the first thing she said, okay? She was being accused of treason. She was mentally tortured for years. She was made to be afraid, and they starved her. This was the queen's orders. Because the queen kept telling everybody that she was a treason. She was performing treason, which is against the monarchy. And so they mentally tortured her until she was deathly afraid all the time. She was living in fear 24/7. And that's what she told me. And she was starved. Now, keep in mind, I don't watch any of the history. The only thing I remember seeing was her wedding, and which was on TV later. Like, I watched it years later, just the wedding and how much of a big deal it was. And then I remember seeing the crash and them showing like the car being mangled, right? And so everybody thought, oh, she died that day, but I knew something wasn't right. And I think a lot of people did. Okay. Then she went on to say, we knew they were going to try to kill me. We got word weeks before. The driver did. The driver got word weeks before. So the driver was her friend. The driver was for her. Okay. Then she straight said she didn't die that day. I didn't die that day. It was another person, what they called a double. And then she said I was stowed away and taken to Wales. And that's how she said it. I was stowed away and taken to Wales. She was not in the vehicle that day. She did not die that day. She said I was stowed away and taken to Wales. Then after that, she didn't get to see the boys for about 6 months. So the boys thought she died that day. Okay. They did the funeral thinking they were carrying their mother, and they were not. Which the whole purpose was for the queen to think she died. And the queen did. The queen thought it was a successful thing. Queen Elizabeth is very dark. And that's what she said. She is very, very, very dark. So Diana's purpose was the light that came into the darkness. And she passed on that torch. Okay. But she didn't die that day. It was another person. She called it a double. And then she said she was stowed away and taken to Wales. And she didn't get to see the boys, or they didn't know she was alive for about 6 months after that. Okay. To where she lived a very secluded life. But there was damage done in her time in the monarchy because she was starved, she was mentally tortured, and she was constantly in fear, and her body took a toll. She actually said she died in 2012. She died in September of 2012 from a heart attack because of the damage done to her body. I feel like she was just at her home, in a small, modest home in Wales. Nobody knew she was alive, right? Except for her boys and a few close friends that knew very well what happened, and they still had some ties to the monarchy. Okay, but the queen always thought she died. To this day, still thinks she died that day. There's a reason for that. Okay, the boys finally knew the truth. The boys today know the truth. There's no doubt. The boys know now what happened to their mother. So imagine being those boys, and you think your mother died in this horrific car accident, and you take part in carrying her body in the funeral and doing all of this kinds of things and dealing with all the stress of the monarchy and all of these things put on their shoulders and the things that they saw after. So she's coming through right now, and she's actually saying the boys are well aware of who their father is, and they don't like him. Okay? And that's just what she wanted me to throw out there. They don't relate to him. She is very proud of her boys. Okay. They are actually trying to change the monarchy into light, and it is because they are well aware of what happened to her. So Diana's legacy was to bring the light into the darkness. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the great thing is, and I got chills when I said that, her legacy was to bring the light into the darkness, and she's doing it today. Um, sorry, I don't know why it's so emotional for me, but she's such a beautiful soul. Um, if it weren't for her, there wouldn't be an option for this. But she says she's very proud of both of her boys, and neither one of them are for the queen's side. And that's what she said, even though it's being presented another way. It's very obvious one of them is not, but you think the other one is. And she said, no, that's intentional. Okay. They are both for her, and they know what happened to her, and they know who did it, and they know everything. And this is why they have courage and the fear that they have now to do what they need to do, because they are both actively trying to bring light into the monarchy. And so Diana's legacy is that she knew it was not going to be an easy task. She knew she was going to barely make it out of that. She wasn't sure she was going to make it out alive, but it is because the very few allies that she did have that she did. And she points to the driver for saving her life. The driver saved her life that day, and he knew what was coming. And I think that's what weighed heavy on his soul, because he knew. But again, Princess Diana did not die that day. It was another person, or a double, as you would call them. She had a few doubles. She had at least 3 doubles. And so sometimes when you would see her, it wasn't her. So she describes of a time where she was even too sick at times to go into the public eye. And that was like not acceptable. And so she had a few doubles. That way she didn't have to force herself, because she was really truly starved and mentally tortured. Okay. And this is what created her heart to eventually fail. And again, she died in September of 2012 from a heart attack at the age of 51. So she made it another 15 years, is what I wrote down. I had to figure that out. Like, if she supposedly died in 97 and she made it to 2012. So if my math is off, forgive me. But I had the fact that she died of a heart attack at the age of 51. And she survived another 15 years, and the boys got to spend that time with her. The queen never knew this, and the queen still doesn't know this to this day. This is the light infiltrating into the darkness. Okay, it is her legacy to do so. And I'm the lucky vessel that gets to bring it all for you guys to see. I bow down to her and what she had to go through, and the beauty, and the queen. She deserved to be queen. She should be that queen. This is really this is one of the most emotional ones I've ever done. The toughest part for me is, can you imagine being those boys and you think you're carrying your mother in the funeral procession? And she said it had to happen that way, because if the boys knew she didn't die, they were so young, the queen would have found out. The queen would have found out. And then when they were introduced to her, is 6 months, within about 6 months later, they were able to process it, and it took some time still. And even her ex-husband thinks she died that day. So this was a very much so, I was stowed away and taken to Wales. And then I looked it up. I'm like, what do you mean she was taken to Wales? Isn't that where she was? But no, when I guess the accident happened, what did it say? She was in Paris, France, right? Is that what it said? So Charles doesn't even know she lived, okay? But she went to Wales. She went back to Wales. And that's where she stayed for another 15 years. Where did it say the accident happened? Let me try to remember. I think it said it happened in France, Paris, France. Am I right on that? Yeah, in Pont de l'Alma tunnel in Paris. Okay. while the driver was fleeing the paparazzi. And it supposedly resulted in the deaths of pretty much all of them but one person. And there's no her companion. I don't like, why did they leave him to die? It had to look very real. That's all I know. But I don't think I don't know. She says it's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. It was not an easy thing to do. It was not an easy thing to do, and they didn't even know if they were going to be successful. But she got word a couple weeks before that she was going to be killed. And so it was one of her body doubles that was in the car. Okay. And they stowed her away and took her to Wales. So this supposedly happened in Paris, France, and they stowed her away and took her to Wales. So they made it look very real. They made it seem very real. The Queen still to this day thinks she died that day, and so does Charles. And Charles was absolutely involved. That's what she wants me to reiterate. He helped plan her death. Do you understand? Prince Charles helped plan her death. Okay. And he will never take over the throne. So her boys now being armed with all the information that they needed and that they have. So if this didn't happen this way, we may not be where we're at today with the possibility of light going in. Do you understand? So it may look like one of her sons is for the good and one is not, but she is literally saying she is very proud of both her boys. Neither one of them are on the Queen's side. And that is what happened is what is giving them the courage and the fear that they have now. Okay? So it is my honor to bring to you exactly what happened to her. It's not an easy one for me to do, but she lived 15 years past where everybody thinks she died, but she had a heart attack at the age of 51 due to the damage in her physical vessel and the stress and everything else in the time that she was in that monarchy. Okay. Remember, they got married the year I was born, 2 days before I was born. She got married 2 days before I was born, y'all. And I just can't stop crying. So I think after doing this video, I'm going to go and connect with the earth. But I just want to say, to the most beautiful energy I've ever felt. And she is a very bright light. And when I channel her, she just stands with the most calmest energy. She is like the calm in the storm. It is like when she would enter a room, you would feel like everything is okay. She says my favorite color was pink, and she loved these snacks that they had that she barely could get her hands on, but she loved these little things. It was the little nuances that she really loved in life. It wasn't about big things. She wasn't as extravagant as all of these people probably made her out to be. She was not. She loved the simple things. She loved the crackers she would be given. Like, she would sit there and just be in such gratitude for the simplest things. And so when you look at her, you might think, oh, spoiled. Oh, she was just a money digger. She was not. It was actually really hard to convince her to take on this life. But she knew she was going to be the light in the darkness. And when she stands next to you, it is like the feeling like everything's going to be okay. And so I just say thank you. Thank you to Miss Diana. She's not a princess, she's a queen. Thank you to the beautiful Queen Diana. May she now rest in peace in her beautiful grace, and to know that the Queen never got to take out her light. That is a legacy in its own. And I will shout that to the heavens above. And I want the Queen to feel that all the way through her spine. So much love to all of you. Thank you for taking the time to get to know her and what happened to her. And I only hope for actual justice to rise, because wouldn't that be a dawn of a new day? So much love to all of you. Until next time.